Hey guys, welcome back to the Hot Break Craft Beercast. We are here on site at Lake Pleasant Brewing Company, Lake Pleasant Brewing Company in Glendale, Arizona. Before we get into our podcast show today, we do have some exciting beers and some great updates to talk about, along with a kind of a cool topic as far as the industry of home brewing and craft brewing and what direction it may be going in. Let's roll the clip.
Completely unscripted, delightfully unfiltered, and 100% fun. Sit back, relax, and get ready to have a great time as they bring you the latest in beer news, Ben M brewing updates, and general shenanigans. And now, your hosts, the famed Brew Crew.
All right, guys, as I mentioned, we are in Lake Pleasant Brewing Company. We're actually starting out with some amazing beers. Before we get into what beer we're drinking today and enjoying, let's get to the introductions. With me, as always, my partner in crime, Kristy.
Hello.
Kristy, thank you so much for joining us today. This was kind of a fun thing to do because we haven't done an on-site podcast in a little bit, especially when it's just the two of us.
No, it's been a hot minute.
It has been a while, so
I'm trying to remember the last time we've actually done a podcast with just the two of us, but I'm excited. And to do it like basically on site is really cool.
it is fun. I mean,
yeah.
the setup's a little bit, but we've had a big learning with equipment and mobile things. So I think it's been a lot of fun and kind of cool to set up with all the stuff that we've gotten, and it's just nice to sit and talk. So it's all good.
Yeah.
All right. So let's talk about what we're drinking today. So, Kristy, I tasked you with going to talk to Lake Pleasant, basically to say, what's your most popular beer? And we'll go ahead and we'll start by drinking that. With the most popular, the best selling,
Right.
whatever it is. And so they said it's pleasantly hazy, which is a it's a
It's a hazy IPA.
Hazy IPA.
It's amazing.
Yes,
It is actually my favorite IPA.
Yeah.
So I actually went up to the bar and asked, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is the most popular. And I knew going back to Brian, he's going to be like, oh, you just.
She comes back to the table with these two hazy beers, and she's like, guess what the most popular one is? It's pleasantly hazy. I'm like, you're lying. There's no, because just because it's your favorite, turns out it actually is.
It is actually my favorite.
Yeah. So, and it is most popular. And it's a great beer. It really is. Has good citrus notes. It's not overly hazy. It's got the kind of the right amount.
I have to do what you call a reach around.
That's an audio technical term.
Cheers. You didn't cheers. Hold on.
I'm sorry. I'm horrible. Oh my
Cheers.
gosh.
Okay.
I'm all over the place today.
No, it's fine.
Oh, I love the citrus. The orange.
Oh my god.
Peel
This is one of the best.
is
beers
really,
ever.
really good.
Yeah. I have another. I'm going to move this over here so it's
okay.
not so daunting. Okay, yeah.
We got a lot of beers on the table today, so
Yeah.
hopefully hopefully we make it at least halfway through before this goes off the rails. But tradition is
can't
tradition.
promise that.
Yeah,
I
I
can't
know.
promise that.
I know. Anyway, so the beers are good, and then I have a Dunkel I'm going to have a little bit later, so I'm excited about that one. They're Munich Dunkel, and that is an absolute gorgeous beer. I've had it before. I think I might have had it the last time we were on when we brought JB.
Yeah.
And I love that beer. It's absolutely fantastic.
When you came back with that beer, and I'm like, oh, I want the Dunkel.
And I said, no, that's mine. Speaking of JB, he is not joining us today. Unfortunately, he was not able to make it. We do love having him on, and we love talking about his brand Vex set. Definitely check him out on YouTube if you haven't. He does some really, really great video work. He's very, very creative, and it's always fun to have him on. He wasn't able to make it, but it's kind of fun to get back to our roots as we started, which is the two of us. So we're happy to just have a chat.
And this, I mean, honestly, this is like one of the first places we've podcasted at many places, but I feel like this is like our home podcast place.
This was kind of the first place we went. And
we did go to, it is one of the first places.
I'm sorry, you're correct, because we did go to Fire and Fury for the first one that we did, yes.
And I loved Fire and Fury.
Yes.
I honestly love going there, but I feel like we were so green and we didn't have.
It was very intimidating to go out and for our first podcast recording to go out, and it was busy, it was noisy, it was
bingo night or
trivia night. It was trivia night, so it was super
so
loud. So they were announcing next to us, and everyone was having a blast, but it was totally threw me off. So,
but it's not. It's not that I didn't like podcasting there. It's just that it was just different. Where I feel like this is closer to where we both live, so it's kind of I feel like become our home beef.
Yeah,
if you will.
definitely.
And Nick and Dustin and his and both of their wives are just amazing people and so friendly and
Yes.
so welcoming. So I feel like this is kind of feels like the home turf,
It
right?
does. And Nick and Dustin are always so kind to have us on. But speaking of Dustin, we do need to have him on. He knows he's not off the hook. He's been, I don't want to say skulking around. He's working today. He's been working in the fermenters just on the other side of us here. And, I think he was actually willing to jump on the podcast today, but we were like, no, not yet. We'll get you a little bit later date. But maybe we can get him and coerce his wife to come on as well. To kind of be with the both of us. I think that would be really, really cool.
Oh my
So we'll
gosh,
hopefully
yeah.
get them on really soon. We got some cool episodes coming up, lined up with some other brewers. So definitely stay tuned for that. So that's gonna be exciting. So
Yeah.
let's talk about updates for Benham Brewing. So we've had kind of a whirlwind of a year. I mean, we're what? It's August, so we're over halfway through the year, and we've had a lot of stuff that has kind of happened, and I don't think we've really talked about it the past couple episodes because we've had some guests on. So
I actually can't believe, to be fair, that we're already in August. Like, I'm so happy because it's hot AF in Arizona. So I'm so excited that it's almost over. But
yes,
like, I feel like this year has flown by. And yes, let's talk about updates. But I
updates.
feel like we went from wanting to take, not complaining, but we wanted to take kind of December off of last year.
Yes.
And then we didn't because,
Oh, it was crazy. We got tons of emails. We got offers to do things. We got all kinds of stuff. And so our month off for the holidays in December didn't happen. And we've kind of been nonstop since. We really haven't had a long break or a long stretch. It's been really, really good and exciting. Like things have just started to move very fast, which is fun. I mean,
yeah.
that's kind of what you want.
Oh my
You can't
gosh.
complain about
Yeah.
it, you
Like the
know?
fact that, like, yes.
Yeah. So YouTube. Let's talk about YouTube. So we're at like just under 2,000 subs, which is great. Growth still continues. It's pretty steady. It's going along a good trend line, which is good. We've actually branched out and done a couple of different videos, different tutorials, different product reviews and things. And so, that's been a lot of fun. And I think, a lot of people, for you guys that watch our channel regularly on the YouTube side, you probably noticed a recent change in kind of the backdrop of where we're shooting video. So last summer, we stuck it out in the garage, the studio, and it gets hot. And there's some of those videos I'm not proud of that we've done where I'm sweating, like the shirt's sticking, and I look miserable. My hair is just not as puffy as it normally is. I just look awful because it gets hot and humid. And so, this year we've kind of transitioned into during the summertime going into more of an air conditioned space, which is actually at your place, Kristy, which is very much an influencer vibe. I mean, it is beautiful. The white countertops, the stainless steel appliances in the kitchen kind of area there, and it is really, really nice.
I feel like I do think that's kind of a game changer in the fact that, like, it is kind of an influencer style
Mm-hmm.
apartment. And it's nice that it's cool.
Yes.
But I also feel like I miss the garage because it's not as industrial as yours. Like,
Yeah.
we're very limited. But in the meantime, I feel like it's been a very good, like,
It's very comfortable. Yeah.
oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Like, and I think that it fits the aesthetic of it definitely fits the aesthetic of the Igulu, which we'll talk about later. But I feel like it does fit the aesthetic of the kind of home brewer that doesn't necessarily want to do all the things to homebrew. So
Well, or have the big garage space. And
yeah,
there's a lot of people that rent and have smaller apartments. And so it's
right.
nice to have a place to be like, yeah, we're doing smaller batches of beer and we're doing it in a kitchen.
Yeah.
You don't need a ton of equipment. You don't need a ton of stuff to do it. So that's been really fun to explore that space.
Yes,
You know?
agreed. And we don't have to bring lights because it's already very well
No,
lit.
it's very well lit. So that's less stuff to haul up to the fourth story. A lot of stairs. I'm just kidding. It's only the second story. But it's a good workout for me. And that helps you work out for the beer.
I always offered help.
You do when I'm done. Slog all that stuff up the stairs and I get done and I'm like, okay, that's it. And you're like, oh, did you need some help? Is it? No, we're good. Thanks. The other exciting thing we started doing this year was live streaming.
Yes.
And that's been, talk about stress. My goodness. I have never live streamed anything. And we did a couple live stream brew days with Trong from Homebrewer Lab. And that was exhilarating and exhausting at the same time. I mean, when you're on stream for 3 hours, I think after the first one, I think I was so tired, and I didn't realize it. This is adrenaline high when you're going live because there's no editing, there's no cutting. It is you're going and you're making it up
Yep.
and you're figuring it out, and it is extremely stressful. So I got done with the stream, and we ended the stream, and I was like, "Woo, we did it! Yes!" 20 minutes later, I literally passed out in a lawn chair in the garage. Like I was out for I don't know how long I slept for. Was it a half hour or
I just
something?
remember like I looked over and you were in your little floating lounge chair and passed out. But I think that what I like about it is that that's what I miss about live broadcast.
Yeah.
So imagine that what we did. And imagine you are live broadcasting a sporting event,
Sports broadcasting.
like a football game, like NFL, and you have the higher ups watching to make sure you get your sponsorships in, or just making sure you're making the right cuts. Like any move you make
Yeah.
is
It's scrutinized.
and wrong, so it has to be right.
Yeah.
I don't know, but at the same time, like you said, the adrenaline, like that's why in my old industry, you go out after a beer, you would get heated with people. Like I'm not gonna lie, like you're like you make a mistake, people will yell at you. There's
Mhm.
no such thing as HR in a lot of those situations, and I'm not trying to, like bring light to a situation, but I'm an HR department. Like
Right.
it's just like you messed up.
Yes.
Like, and then you just go out and pretend nothing happened because you all went through the most intense thing. So
Right.
like it was just in the
It
moment.
wasn't personal. It was
So-
just emotions or hot.
Right. So you feel so I like imagine that and like now you know how that feels. But
Yeah.
at the same time it's almost addicting because you're like, I want to
So
do this
that
again.
means I'm okay to scream at you during the
Absolutely.
live stream, and then
Absolutely.
all is forgiven when it's
Nope.
all over.
But I will say that that's what's addicting is that high of like
Yeah.
I just completed something
Yeah.
live, like and it went off perfectly or
Yeah.
it didn't, but we got through it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So,
It was quite an interesting experience having never done that before. So, no, it was really cool. So we've done a couple of those now, and there's been a lot of learnings with it, and I like to think we've improved on them. We've got another one coming up.
yeah.
We're doing another live stream with Trong from Homebrewer Lab,
Yep.
and that's coming up September 7th, I believe. Time TBD. Just check our YouTube page. We'll have a post talking about when it's going to go live, and we're going to do on his newest brewing system, which we're going to talk about here in just a little bit. The inventor that he is, he of course always has things he's inventing and doing. And if you've watched our podcast episode with him or our YouTube videos with him, he has so many ideas and he's always off in a million different directions with all these great things. So it's going to be an exciting live stream. I'm excited to do that on the 7th.
Oh, I'm so excited.
Yes.
I think the hard part is, like just keeping up with all the technology and what's going on, but
Mhm.
he keeps us in the know. He's an inventor, so we'll have a lot of
He's like an inventor with ADHD because he is, or he needs to up his Ritalin dose. I don't know, but he is.
He's got so many inventions, and it's like just trying to keep up is really
and so much
difficult.
energy.
Yeah.
There was, oh gosh, what was it? I don't know if I asked him a question or I might have asked him a question one time about one of his products, or I think that was it. And I just emailed him and said, hey, can we get on a Zoom call or can you email me back so we can talk about it? And, next thing I know, he's emailing me back at like 9 o'clock at night saying, hey, I'm available at 10 o'clock. If you want to jump on a quick Zoom call, we can talk about it. And I'm like, oh my God, this guy never sleeps.
He did say that one time. He was like, can we do the call at like 10 or 11? And we're like, no. We're
No.
bed by that time.
I admire his energy. I don't know where he gets it
I
from.
don't
but
know
I'm
when
like,
he sleeps, but he's very much like you, and I think that's why you guys get along because you and him are very, very coded the same way. Because I don't know when the heck you sleep either, so like that's kind of funny.
well, I usually go to bed early, but then I'm up at 3 in the morning because my brain turns on and I can't shut it off. So,
I get
That's fun.
Sometimes I get like Skype messages in the morning, like I just worked on the video, and I'm like, I'm yep,
Mhm.
still sleeping,
Yeah.
but I get the ding, and I think that's the hard part for me is I get the ding notification, and I'm like, I gotta look at it. Not saying that you shouldn't send that to me. I'm one of those people that if my phone goes off, I'm gonna check the message.
Yeah,
So yeah.
yeah.
Anyway, so continue.
Yeah. So that's something else I've been doing this year
Yeah.
too. Speaking of editing and me waking you up at 3 o'clock in the morning saying, I finished the video. I've been doing some of the video editing for a couple of our recent episodes, not the main YouTube ones, but kind of some of the off ones. And so that's been
I will
fun to
say
get
that
my
most
hands
people
on
are
that.
probably like, oh my god, the quality's gotten so much better.
No. At the worst, they can't tell. So you're safe. No, so that's been kind of fun learning too. In addition to doing the live streaming and learning that, and then getting kind of my feet wet with some of the video editing and stuff, and that takes such a talent. Like, oh my god, it's a lot. Um, and then upgrading our equipment this year, which I do want to talk about, getting kind of some an additional camera so we can actually do a 2-camera setup like this, so we can sit and talk. And so the kind of the biggest news of the year that is really exciting. And again, we haven't really talked about it. So I guess it didn't happen beginning of this year. This happened kind of back in April. We got a brand deal, basically. So we've got kind of a sponsor for the next couple of months or so. So we're making some videos for them and kind of collaborating with them. They're launching new equipment that they're sending to us that we're testing, sending back to them with feedback so they can improve upon kind of the finished product. So that's kind of been exciting to kind of be on the ground level with that. And that has enabled us to start to kind of fund some of the improvements in the channel and to actually, trying to step up our game a little bit to keep things interesting and kind of a higher quality. And, I think it's been huge. That was a huge milestone for us, very exciting.
I feel like every time we met, it was like, oh, like, so I think actually backtracking, I think I was kind of the one that kickstarted the whole production thing in the very beginning,
Mm-hmm.
but I was very limited in my knowledge. Like, I basically went off of what I had in my production and advertising era, but I think that a lot of people did a lot for me. So, like, I had people edit and, like, I was more of a producer, but then I really wanted to learn and I did. But then you kind of, like, stepped it up. Like, you were like, okay, so I would have never thought to upgrade our cameras the way you did. I would never have thought to work on audio the way you have. Like, you definitely have, I don't know, like, stepped up the game.
Well, I tend to fixate on things. So kind of audio was the first thing I fixated on, but
Because I need to kind of backtrack. You have zero, like, I'm not trying to be like zero experience, but you have zero experience.
you don't know what the hell you're doing. That's what I just heard.
No, you have zero experience in
Correct.
editing.
And it shows.
No, it doesn't end camera work or shooting video or doing audio. Like,
Yeah.
that's not my forte. Like, I think I can piece things together well,
so
but I can't. I'm not going to learn every single part of.
but I think it's a because I've seen what and I'm fascinated by how that works. I'm not as creative as you. I don't have as good of an eye as you do as far as the editing piece goes, but I'm fascinated by it, and that's why I'm like, it kind of pushes me to want to learn it. And I think there's things that I've kind of watched videos on and learned on, and then I'm like, oh, hey, have you seen this? How about this zoom in, or how about this transition, or look, I did the color grading on this. And I feel like that pushes you a little bit to say, oh, I didn't know. Ooh, I want to try that. And then you then end up pushing me. And so it's kind of,
Right,
it
it's like
builds
back
off
and
of each
forth,
other.
yeah.
JB's the one that really, as we
Mm.
started out not pushing, but filming our videos on an iPhone. That was our start. And we did that for over a year, I think. Year and a half.
I edited.
No, was it 2 years?
I'm not afraid to say this. I edited our first video off of like Open Office or no Adobe Rush
on your phone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I did it actually. The one video that you guys was one of our most views is the Extract 101 video. We did that in Adobe Rush on my phone.
Yeah.
Because I didn't have the tools to do it on an actual laptop because
your MacBook kept catching fire when you tried to load it up. So
anyone that has an old school MacBook,
this thing was so old it didn't have a DVD drive in it. It had a VHS tape drive.
Shut up! It had a DVD drive. That's why I didn't want to give it up because I wanted my DVD drive.
It had a Betamax drive on that thing. It was old.
But I also feel like you're right. Like that's where JB stepped in. Like JB,
because we started shooting on our phones, and iPhones shoot great video. And we did great. And then he brings out his fancy schmancy, like these really nice cameras, and he's doing footage, and we watched the playback, and it's like, oh my God, that is really nice.
Yeah.
And so then that sparked my interest again, because I did some photography when I was in high school, ever so long ago. Haven't touched it since. But that kind of sparked my interest again in the kind of the camera work, and so doing research and like all of that has just been, it's such a fun creative outlet
Yeah,
between
yeah.
the audio engineering side of it, which I am not an expert by any stretch. Oh my God. I'm starting to get into coloring, learning how to run the cameras. And so one of the cameras we ended up upgrading to for our setup is it's like a 12-year-old cinema camera. Like
I will say it is insane. Like, I
it,
don't know.
it's a beast of a camera. It's a little intimidating when you look at
I don't
it.
want to touch it, but
No, I know. Well, plus it's heavy.
I literally, you shot video of me I'm doing cooking stuff now, so like, shot video of that, and I'm like, oh my God, it recognizes which is horrifying.
It's an
to me.
HD camera.
I need the Barbara Walters filter.
It's an HD camera from like 11, 12
Can
years
you
ago.
literally just like Vaseline the
I will
lens?
We'll have a Vaseline lens for you.
Thank
There's
you.
a filter for that, I'm
Okay,
sure.
thank you.
I'll do some research.
Thank you.
But the footage on it is, I mean, it's an HD camera. There's 4K, there's 8K, there's 28K, there's whatever. This is the tastiest HD footage I have ever seen. It is so sharp, but it has a softness to it like it's film, which, for the brewing channel, okay, maybe not necessary because we're teaching people how to brew, but from a just quality standpoint, it's amazing. And unfortunately, YouTube probably compresses it, so people really can't really tell. But it is an absolutely amazing camera. It's actually the one that I'm looking at right now. It is absolutely. I have had so much fun messing around with that camera and learning so much with it. So
You
that's
had
been
a lot of fun, like when we shot in my kitchen to do cooking videos. But we're sidebarring now, really quick. Do you have any suggestions for people that are looking to get into this industry, as far as how do you find your cameras, and how do you, besides all the research you do on YouTube, what's a good way that people you said this is 13 years old, how do you trust that this is still going to shoot? How, like, I guess, do you go with your gut? Like, I'm just curious, and I think we should do our
Are we
own.
talking about eBay? They're not a sponsor, by the way.
I don't know. I'm just. It's a leading question because
It
I
is.
wouldn't know, because I don't know how to find.
All the camera equipment that I've gotten so far, it's all been used. And the thing with camera equipment, especially when you look at some of the higher end stuff that is a little bit older, from what my experience is, you're looking at, like, I'm going to use Canon as an example because I love Canon. That's just, and I know there's Fuji and there's other better or whatever. I like Canon, and I'm still learning, and that's what I'm in right now. When you look at the high quality, this was a $2,000 lens 10 years ago. The person that bought that lens and owns it took extremely good care of it. They didn't toss it in a bag. They didn't abuse it. So if you buy quality glass, it's going to last a long time. Does it have all the latest, greatest features? And no, but optically, they're fantastic. And so these lenses that I bought for the camera, just as an example, are, about the same age as the cinema camera. They're old. And so you get them for a couple $100 versus 2,000.
That's insane.
It is insane,
to
and
me.
they are used. But if you think about it, if someone bought it at that, they're going to take care of it. That is an investment. And I kind of find that with a lot of the nicer camera gear. People don't tend to abuse this stuff.
So if anyone wants to see like a separate channel or video about how to buy equipment, that, I don't know, you do a really
I'm
good.
not a good resource for that. There's so many camera review channels and tech channels and like that.
Ah,
They know way more than I do.
But we've always said we want to do it behind the scenes, so stay tuned. Maybe we'll do that one time.
Maybe we will. I don't know. It is a lot.
I could
but maybe.
I could never do what you do. Like, I end up just buying things new, and it's not worth it.
So Kristy asked me to recommend a camera she could use for kind of
Oh
her
God,
social
here we
media
go.
and her channel stuff. Oh yeah, no, this is happening. Oh yeah, I'm ratting you out, calling you the carpet. So she's like, well, where do you go? I said, I go on eBay. Usually, if you got a good seller, it's.
Hold up, you sent me a link for the exact camera I should buy, and I did buy it.
Are you gonna let me tell the story?
No.
Okay,
Yes. Okay. Yes.
Let me tell the story. Okay, so I convinced her. YouTube, eBay's okay. Look at the review of the seller. If they've got a lot of good reviews and they're a trusted seller, then you're probably pretty safe to do it. It's worth the risk for the price savings. So I recommended the camera. Said this will work for your needs. You're somewhat familiar with it, based on what we already use. Here's a link to do it. So I send her the link, and she buys it. as luck would have it, that is the link that unfortunately was to a seller that decided he wasn't going to sell it anymore, but never put the link down. So now Kristy's traumatized because she doesn't trust eBay because she says it's a chintzy looking website. I would say if you go to B&H Photo, it looks a lot worse than eBay, but that I digress. And so now she's completely off of eBay because of the one bad experience she had.
It wasn't even a bad experience. He refunded the money like in like 5 hours. So like it wasn't a bad experience.
So what's the problem?
I'm just anyway.
It was trauma. It was trauma. I'm sorry. I'm sorry you had to experience that for your first foray into the realm of eBay, which has been around.
I was already very
since the
nervous
early
about eBay.
2000s.
You know I was nervous
I
about
know.
eBay. Anyway, and you know what the worst part is? Strong swears by eBay. eBay paid him do a commercial for it.
Yeah, they did. He's a like a promoted eBay seller.
Yeah,
They sent
I know. So like
$10,000
I should talk to
in a
Trong, and Trong's
camera
gonna be like,
crew.
yeah, don't worry about it.
Yeah, they spent $10,000 and sent out a camera crew to do like a 2-minute not YouTube.
That's insane.
I'm stuck on YouTube. eBay commercial
Insane.
for the stuff that he invents. It's absolutely. It's
I mean, the
nuts.
fact that they sent out like an actual film production crew to shoot that, like he
And
must be
what was it he
selling.
said? They said they sent him out to, and it took him like 12 hours to shoot 2 minutes or something.
Yes,
Yeah,
which absolutely sounds about right.
that's about right.
Yeah,
Yeah, the amount of work that goes into production is nuts.
and the amount of
absolutely
money
nuts.
that probably. Anyway, so
Yes.
that was the side story.
Yes.
Anyway, let's continue with what we were talking about.
So let's talk about kind of today's topic. Let's kind of dive into it. So we had gotten some news, unfortunately. It was early this week. It was posted on Facebook. One of our local homebrew shops, the Brewers Connection, is closing their doors at the end of this month after being in business since like 1998. And they were a cornerstone in the kind of the Tempe, Phoenix area homebrew market. And it really got me thinking, you know, something that's been in business for that long and they're closing their doors. And then thinking about a year prior to that, we had another homebrew store over in Scottsdale that ended up closing down. It was also, I don't know if it was because of slow business or more about the construction that they had basically torn up all the roads around it. So no one can get to it for like 8 months, which is just devastating. And so I don't know why the city did that, but they ended up shuttering it. And so their only location is now in Tucson. So for the Phoenix, Glendale, Tempe area, the only place we have, thankfully, is close to us over in Glendale at What Ails You, one of the local homebrew store. But it really got me thinking about, you know, these homebrew stores, these supports, these hobby hangouts that are closing, and there's less and less, it seems, as time goes on. And so now that we only have really 2 left in Arizona and only 1 that's within driving distance, you know, is this the hobby continuing to decline? Is this, how do we rectify this? How do we come back? Like, what's the driving force?
I don't know. Like, I think Brewers Connection was actually, it hit harder than any other one because they have been the staple for homebrewing.
Well, and they were open in the valley before it really hit big.
They-
right
yeah.
after it hit big in the early 90s.
Yeah, but they
or late
were
90s,
the place.
yes.
And I think it's sad, and I don't know what happened, but I have to believe that the hobby's not dead, but maybe
It's evolving. It's changing.
that, and I feel like, I mean, I just feel like people don't go anywhere to get stuff anymore. Like, if that makes sense. Like, I feel like after the pandemic, which sounds crazy, but after the pandemic and just in general with a lot of delivery apps like Amazon or home, like a lot of
Instacart, Amazon, the
home brewer, like, and a lot of like what's the one that I always go, Northern Brewer,
Northern Brewer.
or More Beer.
Mhm.
I think you can buy a lot online, and people don't want to go. So like, let's say we live in Glendale, right? And we find out that Brewers Connection has the only hop that we need, or the only ingredient we have. We're not going to drive all the way over to the East Valley to go buy it.
Mhm.
It's a lot of gas money, and it's also a lot of time back and forth. So I feel like a lot of people just buy things online.
Yeah, I mean, when you buy the stuff online, generally, it's a lot less expensive. No, not a lot less expensive.
It's the
it's a little
convenience.
less expensive. It is more convenient as long as you don't need it right away. but you lose out on that local business, the local support, the geez, I forgot this. I need to run to the brew store real quick, grab it, and come back because I'm in the middle of a brew day. Like all of a sudden, that goes away.
Yeah, but what happens if your brew store doesn't have it anyway? You know what I
Well,
mean?
and we've kind of dealt with that with some of the stuff that we've done, where they don't carry the vast quantities or the as big of a selection as they used to 5-6 years ago. Like it's not as vast. And I get it because it's retail store. You're not going to stock something on the shelf that's not going to move, and you're going to have to throw it out. So, and this is especially true for yeast. And I've frankly had some issues getting specific specialty yeast that I want to brew with. Now, in their defense, if I had gone to them and said, "Hey, I'm looking to do this particular kind of beer. When you place your yeast order, can you special order it?" They would have said yes. I didn't do that. This is a last minute, like, I'm really feeling like doing a gosh, what was the one I did? It was a Doppelbock. I'm doing Doppelbock, and so I go to the homebrew store. They don't have the yeast because not a lot of people brew Doppelbocks in Arizona, probably in the summertime. That's one of those things. So I'm not mad at them for not carrying it, but yes, they don't carry everything that you could possibly need. It's impossible for them to do that.
But I also do want to give a shout out to What Else, yeah, because they are literally like probably the only homebrew shop around now. So like I don't want that to go away, and I know Adam cares about it a lot. It's just it's sad to see such a big homebrew shop close, and
That was such a legacy. That was the first one in Arizona that's
right.
gone.
So what is the trend? Is it people aren't brewing, or that?
Or they're buying online.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I've seen the statistics on it where homebrewers are kind of aging out. So as they get older, they either drop the hobby. Excuse me. And we've mentioned it before that the younger generation doesn't really brew. I don't know if they appreciate craft beer as much, but they definitely don't brew it. They don't need
It's
to
more
brew
about the
it.
experience. They could go out and get it.
And back when I started brewing, they didn't have everything. They didn't have the availability of all these amazing beers at your local pub. So I had fun brewing stuff I couldn't buy.
Yeah.
Now everything's commercially available, and the cost of homebrew ingredients have gone up in recent years. So making it yourself isn't as cheap as just going out and buying it.
Just like everything. Everything's more expensive. Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I think it's a combination of beer is readily available. So why would you need to make it yourself? I mean, if you had bakeries all around you that were making fresh bread, why would you make your own when you could just walk down the street and get a fresh loaf that was fresh made, homemade, unless you're doing some specialty thing. But
I don't know. I guess that's the difference between me and a lot of people is like I do like to make things from scratch,
Well,
like
sure.
pickles or kimchi. Because
I'm the same way and that's why I still brew beer because I enjoy the process. I enjoy making it.
Is it maybe an age thing? Like I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's unfortunate that that's happening, and I think equipment's gotten expensive. I think the hobby has also moved to a stage that makes it intimidating to jump into as a newbie because everything has gotten so advanced, and it's not back in the day it was you need a plastic bucket, you use bleach for sanitizer, grab some baking yeast and a can of Cooper's liquid malt and pre-hopped malt, and you make the beer. I mean, how simple can you possibly get? And as the hobby has progressed, it has gotten progressively more involved and complicated and better and improved. But that makes it the barrier to entry technically is a little intimidating, I think, for new homebrewers that are like, why would I go through all of that trouble when I know the guys down the street and it's a great experience? I'm going to beer there.
Which I think leads us to our next point, or one of our next points, as far as the ease of it, right? Like, I don't know. Like,
what do you mean the ease of it?
Well, I think we'll eventually talk about it, but as far as the difference between
as far as getting into it, yeah. So and it's all with the local homebrew shop closing. I'm gonna circle back here. Is kind of made me really reflect on is the hobby dying? Is it what's the deal? And I think it's gotten very technical, and so we've seen in recent months and in the past couple of years. We've seen some new systems that have kind of come onto the market. Two of them most recently, actually, this year, that take that brewing process and really kind of simplify it down to make it more approachable for brewers, home brewers. And so you end up with not needing to get a massive amount of equipment a 10-gallon kettle, a 5-gallon fermenter, climate control, the glyculture. You don't need any of that. They have these kind of all-in-one systems that kind of do a lot.
Hmm.
And one of them being Igulu, right? And they've been, I guess they had a Kickstarter. This was back like 2012 or 2010 or something. They started, and they finally started bringing their product to market to their Kickstarter supporters earlier this year. And now they've launched kind of the full product line. They got brew kits, and I was shocked. We've reviewed one of the products. We've tested their brew kits. It's pretty solid. It's got some limitations, but if you're just getting into it, it's a great way to kind of segue into the hobby. And it's an all-in-one. It's like, and I said bread machine. It's like a bread machine for brewing. You throw the ingredients in, you turn it on, and you let it run for a week. It carbonates it, and you serve it out of the vessel. So it's a great way to get that into the hobby. It does come at some of a premium, but again, there's some convenience that you're paying for with
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
So we were pleasantly surprised by the response of the community, and a lot of new brewers have reached out with questions on it, and excited to try it. And I've had a couple brewers that actually have bought multiple machines so that they can brew more than one thing at once. It's absolutely insane. And so that's kind of the one option that's very technical and, excuse me, not technical, but technological. It has software and auto chilling and warming and pressure and regulators and the built-in CO2, and like it's got the whole gambit of stuff. And the other system that's kind of come on the market recently is the Pot Brew by Homebrewer Labs.
Mhm.
And this is kind of, I mean, they're both small batch brewing systems. This one kind of takes a different approach from the standpoint of it's not technologically, there's no electricity, there's no software, it's stainless, and it's engineered, over engineered in some cases, and this thing will last forever. But it still does small batches. And again, the response on the Pot Brew has been tremendous. And so I kind of wonder if, the decline of the homebrew stores, or at least in our area, is people aren't buying the stuff in bulk. Maybe they're pushing to buy stuff more online. I was worried that, people are getting out of the hobby, but there's been a lot of interest in these smaller brewing systems that are kind of all inclusive. And I wonder if that is just the how the hobby is evolving. It's no longer about making a 15-gallon batch of beer in your stainless conical fermenter in your garage. It's about making small, bespoke batches.
I don't know. I think that like nowadays it's more socially acceptable to be living in an apartment for X amount of years, right? So I think in our era, I don't want to age us, but in our era, like we definitely were taught we should be in a house, married, children, a very nice house at a certain age. Nowadays, it's very socially acceptable to be living in a nicer area in an apartment versus in a house in a lesser desirable area just to have a house, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that eliminates your ability to brew
Yeah.
or homebrew.
Yeah.
And you can always homebrew on your stove, but I'm talking about all grain in your garage. Chances are this new demographic's not gonna have a garage to brew it. If I'm gonna be honest, like the new demographic is gonna be nice apartment. You don't have to worry about if the AC breaks, someone comes in and fixes it.
Mm-hmm.
You have something going on. They're not gonna know how to fix it. Someone comes in. So I think that's what takes a lot of the brewing, all grain out of it is that, and that's why Trong's pot of brew is key, or like an igloo, because you've been in my apartment. You've all seen my apartment. It's not big enough to do a massive brew.
Mm-mm.
And I'm perfectly happy in that apartment, but that's the new standard, right? Like with inflation and everything that's gone on, people can't afford to buy a house.
Right.
It's a different time period, and I think that's what kind of puts a strain on a home brewing, is that we don't have the space or
Or
the
the resources.
resources. Yeah. And like I mean, you have a very nice house and you have a beautiful house, but I think when you get past a certain demographic, you're just happy to have like a nice new place
Mm-hmm.
that you don't have to really take care of because someone else takes care of it. And I know that sounds bad, but there's nothing wrong with living in an apartment nowadays.
No.
Where I think back in the day, it was like you should be in a house. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But when you're in an apartment now, you don't have the space to do it.
But a lot of people, and even outside the U.S., I mean, thinking of one of Trong's demographic
Thailand.
is Thailand.
Yeah.
They live in very, very small apartments or spaces. They don't have a ton of space, and his pot of brew, his little brewing system, gallon and a half brew system, has been very well received out there because you utilize a lot of what you already have. It doesn't take up a ton of room. The beer turnaround is fast. You serve it out of the vessel, and it just makes sense. And for what you're getting for the cost of it is actually really, really good. I mean, it's a really good deal.
Yeah, and I also think water is a big thing, and he pushes that, but it doesn't take as much water to brew on his system.
No.
And also, you do think about your resources if you're in a small apartment. You don't necessarily like you've had to deal with that. Like I have a Brita, we don't have a lot of resources in a small apartment.
It is a change in how people are living their lives right now because a lot of people live in apartments. To your point, there's nothing wrong with that, but that also obviously changes the demographic of what the hobby can sustain and support. And I think that's part of the evolving of the hobby itself. And when you look at an Igulu, which is more technically advanced, there's an app for that. It does a lot of things really well, and it's a lot of set it and forget it. But there's some trade-offs with it because it's somewhat limited in what you can do. You can do a lot of fermented beverages. Excuse me. You can do a lot of fermented beverages on the Igulu, but because it doesn't boil, that's a huge limiting factor on the types of beers that you have to do extract. And the extract beers are going to come out, they're going to come out good, but they're going to have a little hit of sweetness to it. The head retention is going to be a little above normal. The hop utilization is not be quite as much. It's
But that's
all
why
things that
we're
you can
doing
work
our
around.
videos because
Absolutely. All things that can be overcome. Absolutely. But you have to be aware of them going into it.
But don't you think that's what's cool about it is like then you kind of stovetop do things to boil things and then put it in. So you're technically so then it feels like you're brewing like kind of like you're
yeah.
you're
But there's ways to work around it.
Right.
And if someone who has the Igulu doesn't want to go to the trouble of doing the boil and then if they understand that these are going to be some of the impacts, which don't really affect the flavor of the beer that really at all, that's fine. And they're good with that. But people can tweak it and do more than that. You look at something like the pot of brew, which is not as set it and forget it as the Igulu. But you get some benefits with that in that it is an all-grain brewer. You can brew pretty much anything on it, but it doesn't have any automatic chilling. It doesn't have climate temperature control, which is not an issue. Again, if you're in an apartment, you keep your apartment at a relatively comfortable temperature for a human occupation, your beer is going to firm out fine. So there's pros and cons with both. You can either have the super convenience and there's some limitations, or you can do everything, but you're going to have a little bit more hands-on.
I will say this about Chong's system, especially now that he is offering it as like
the new system. And
Yeah,
guys, stand by for a video on that. He sent us his newest version.
it's basically
It is the complete kitchen brewery. It has everything you could possibly need.
He even
It
includes the hop bag.
solves
He includes everything into it.
it solves every problem that you could possibly think of. So stay tuned for that. It is coming. We're excited to launch that. That thing is going to be awesome.
I feel like that is something that I like both. I love the Igulu because A, it's just gorgeous, but B, it's so easy.
It's very
but
easy.
if you're looking to experiment more, the pot of brew is insane. Like you can brew all grain in it, and he's going to include a lot of the stuff you need, most of it, all of it. Like I don't know, everything we've brewed in that has turned out like very well.
You know what I made in the pot of brew, and I didn't do a video on it, but you can't do this in the Igulu, by the way. Sauerkraut.
You were supposed to do a video of that.
I know, but no.
It's also going back to that as an influencer. Do you want it?
I don't want to film everything, and it's not brewing beer, but I wanted to try it, and it came out amazing.
Can I do
Super
that for
simple.
my cooking?
We should do that for your channel. For your cooking channel, yes.
Oh, Oktoberfest. I could do that. I was looking for an October.
Oh, that's a good idea.
October. Oh,
It comes out super crisp.
we'll talk about that.
I don't think I
offline.
gave you any to try, did I?
Nope.
I still have a couple jars in my fridge. It is the crispest sauerkraut
I think
have
I'll
ever
do
had.
my own recipe though for it. But like, can we do that?
Mhm.
And then we'll. I was looking for something Oktoberfest.
Yes, perfect.
Can we brew an Oktoberfest beer?
We probably should.
We are a brewing channel after all.
Well, yes. Well, when we get around to it, when I'm not buying new camera equipment.
Oh, that would be good for my channel.
Yeah,
Let's do
we
that.
can do that.
Okay. Oh, thank God. I was looking for something to do.
Oh no, that'll be easy. That way easier than the Labor Day cookout.
I didn't think it was that difficult. It's just that it was so chaotic.
It wasn't difficult. It was a long shoot day. I think it all came out really, really nice. We'll see because of editing that one. We'll see how that pieces together. But no, I think that'll be a good video to launch. Yeah.
Yeah,
That'll
but
be
I
good.
think Oktoberfest. Oh heck yeah!
Yes. We'll do a Marzen and sauerkraut. I
And
lost
brats.
it.
And
And
brats.
brats.
Yeah.
I'm not making brats. I will buy brats.
No, I was thinking like brats are not awkward. Or look, we should look at like some.
Some actual German fare.
Yeah,
Some legit, not the
I like
not the
brats
special
too.
brand from Walmart. The what is that called? That value.
Great value.
Great value.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
yes, the great value beer brats. Hey, those are good.
Yeah, but
They don't mess around. Those are good.
No, but we should do beer brats. Oh my God, we just decided. Anyway, this got so off the rails, but
Yeah.
thank goodness.
We made it 3/4 of the way through, so we did good this time. Yeah, we did good. So the new products that are coming out, it gives me hope. Then there's been some products that they've launched in the past for the countertop brew systems that have not made it and have failed. I wonder if they hit
The
the
Pico
mark.
Brew.
The Pico Brew.
Everyone still references that, even in our comments. They're like, "This sounds like the Pico Brew
Yeah.
all over again."
Yeah, the Pico Brew was an all-grain system for the countertop. So think of it like a coffee maker, but with grain. It unfortunately didn't make it, but maybe it launched too soon, and maybe the market's right now for those small batch things, and the fact that on both these systems you can make more than just beer, kombucha, cider. We did a ginger beer.
Ginger beer was actually really
That
good.
was really good.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of other things that you could do with these systems besides make beer, and maybe that's the appeal too. It's not just a beer brewing system; it's a
I
beverage
will
system.
say that, and I think what really set iGulu apart was their marketing team and their vision. And I haven't seen anything so strong in a while. But if I was going to be honest, when we first got approached by it, I'm like, it's very expensive. Is anyone going to spend this much to do
Mhm.
this? But
It's definitely a premium for that.
they
for that
do
machine.
a very good job of marketing, and they targeted a specific demographic, which
Yes.
you're like, whoever does their advertising and marketing, kudos to them. But they definitely like targeted like
Yes.
the Gen Z kind of like, or the demographic where you're in a very small apartment like Asia, where in Japan or China or Korea, you live in a very small apartment like I do. So kudos to them. But I mean, looking at their Kickstarter, they have a lot of supporters. So like,
Mhm.
I'm very happy for them.
Yeah,
But
what was that? They had launched it, the iGlue S1, and that was, I thought it was like, see if you can,
I'm gonna
if
look
you can
it
get
up.
current numbers, but it was something like their original Kickstarter for this new machine that was coming out. It was like $10,000, which seemed a bit low for such a big product. So maybe it was more about the marketing, which some companies do when they launch a Kickstarter.
Okay, yes.
It's
so,
more about, hold on, it's it's more about kind of the traction and the marketing of it on the Kickstarter. So that was like $10,000 for their goal.
it was their pledged amount was 10,000.
Okay.
And they have 10 days to go, and as of today, they have raised $400,410.
Holy cow. And I think it hit like what, 70 or 170,000 in like the first 2-3 days, or
They hit
something
over 100,000 like in their first
in the
day.
first day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it shows
There's
you.
clearly interest out in the market for a product like this, and
Right.
I was absolutely floored because, like you said, it's expensive. There's a premium. Like who's gonna
But
buy
I also
this?
think that,
There's obviously some value in it.
well, we also think and remember that we live in a society where, like we just talked about, people are living in apartments, but we have more space to live in this country. Like as far as versus like it doesn't matter how rich you are in Korea or Japan, you're gonna have like you're basically living in an apartment.
Mhm.
It's not like they have mansions or houses out there. They might, but it's not like here where you're like you're gonna have a garage and stuff. Like even
Yeah.
the richest people in Korea, the richest K-pop idols in Korea live in an apartment.
Right.
So again, small space. Well, and I think that's what we talked about with Andrew and the Cano is like small footprint, right? Like nowadays it's small footprint. How can we
Right.
utilize the least amount of space to get what needs to be done? Because
Yes.
we don't have a lot of space nowadays. So
Yeah. Yeah. And you can brew more often because you have as much product to go through. So you can brew more often. It's always fresh. You can always experiment. Like there's a lot of kind of cool things with going small as far as batch size goes. So I think there's a potential. It gives me hope. It gives me hope for the future. So hopefully things will continue to go and evolve to keep the hobby alive and continue to transition from maybe the big stuff to the little stuff. And, you know, hopefully the appreciation of craft brew does not die. I hope it
well,
continues.
it's definitely been fun to play around with iGulu and trying to figure out our own recipes on
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
So it's not like you're just limited to, and the same thing with Potter Brew. You're not limited to just basic recipes. You can play around with it and do your own thing.
Right.
So.
Yeah. Which has been awesome. So, okay. Cool. All right, Kristy. Well, I'm going to go ahead and wrap us up if you're
Yeah,
good. This
I'm
was
good.
great. I appreciate sitting down and having a couple of beers. And be able to recap and talk to you. And like it's
God,
been a while since we've sat down and run. I mean, it's probably been over 2 years since it was just you and me.
has it? Really?
It might be. It's
2
been a
years sounds like a
while.
lot.
It does, doesn't it? Yeah, I think it has been. Yeah, and that
Weird.
was back when we were still shooting on the iPhone.
With sharing a little mic. I'm kidding. Your
Or maybe
headphone.
maybe that was before we got the camera. Maybe that was when we were still sitting in lounge chairs in the garage with the mics up and like it was just audio. So that was
I'll let you finish it off.
no, it was awesome. So thank you guys for tuning in. We appreciate it. Definitely stay tuned for more episodes. We got a neat one lined up. It's coming next month with Front Porch Brewing Company. We're going to sit on site with them and talk to them about their story. They have a very, very interesting story. They have a beautiful brewery, so definitely check it out. We're going to have some awesome footage on that for you. If you guys like and what you heard, please subscribe. Follow us on any podcast supplier. So we're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, no longer Google Podcasts because they're going away.
Oh, I didn't know
I
that.
was shocked about that. Yeah, I think they're
Wow.
closing the end of this month. Yeah, they're going bye-bye. But all the other podcast distribution systems we are on, so definitely feel free to subscribe to that. And if you like anything that we're wearing on any of our videos and our podcast, please check out our merch store at benhambrewing.com. Buying a t-shirt helps us out tremendously.
I'm kidding.
All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Catch you later, my friends.